Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Daily Word. Today is Wednesday of this first week of the month of October. So glad you could join me for our time together as we continue our journey through the Daily Word and what it means for us and how it speaks to us. So glad you could join me for our continued conversation and time together. So for this morning, I've chosen from the book of James again, chapter 3, verses 10 and 11. And this is a bigger part of the chapter, well, two verses from a bigger section where James talks to us about taming the tongue. And he has lots to say about it and how our tongue is like a fire and how it can get us in trouble. And rather than read all of that, I want to just condense it down to these few verses for us this morning. And James says this: "Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing, my brothers and sisters. This should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring?" Yesterday, I had a late lunch, went to a local pizza place. I didn't get pizza, however, but I got spaghetti because I love their spaghetti. And so I ordered spaghetti. And of course, no matter where I go, I know somebody. And so I knew folks there and had a couple brief conversations. And then a person who works there is a friend of mine. And so she sat down and we had a big, long conversation over me trying to read my new book and eat my spaghetti. We had a big, long conversation. And part of our conversation, not knowingly and not on purpose, dealt with this particular subject. We talked about our regrets of things that we say, our regrets of sometimes how we act, and that our mouths get in the way sometimes, or our tongues speak too fast, and then we live with regrets, and we wonder, how it could make our lives better. And so I got to thinking about that more and more throughout the day, and listening to myself throughout the day as I interacted with a couple of folks about what my language was, the words that I had to say, and if my words followed my persona, how I portray myself, or if my words followed my heart, or if I just kind of like, as James describes in this picture, if my words don't match what it is that God calls me to. And so we should guard our words. And so James reminds us in all of this text, he reminds us about, he said, "And the tongue is a fire, and it stains the whole body. It can set the fire of cycle of life. No one can tame a tongue. With it we bless the Lord and the Father, and with it we curse people made in the likeness of God." And I got to thinking about those particular words as they apply to me and as they apply to you. What is it? What are the words that we say? I've talked about this many times in this daily word. I talk about it all the time. That words have power. We live in a culture that for some reason is okay with name calling. Our politicians name call, our athletes and coaches and public figures name call. I think we find that easy to name call because then that just keeps us from being, held accountable. When we name call, it deflects our own weaknesses, if you will, or lack of accountability. And I was having a conversation with a person yesterday about athletes and about parents. And if you come to basketball games at the high school where I work, if we're at a home game, mostly opposing fans sit behind me. And at away games, mostly our fans sit behind me. And there are often times that I'm appalled at the words I'm hearing and the things that they're saying. To officials, but even to kids on the sidelines, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. I'm often appalled by that. In our conversation yesterday, I said, I sometimes wonder about these folks who on Saturday night throw a fit. And once in a while, folks get thrown out. I wonder about them and then how they can get up and go to church the next morning and think that none of this matters, or face their kid when they get home, or specifically look themselves in the mirror. And for me, that's where I get stuck. I don't always say the right thing. Sometimes words come out of my mouth that I don't want to come out of my mouth. I say things before I think. I might get aggravated at whatever. And then my challenge is always looking in the mirror at myself and thinking, boy, Jim, I can't believe you just acted that way. And I think the scripture reminds us that we have to remember the importance of what comes out of our mouth. Praise and cursing. But it shouldn't be. Out of our mouths shouldn't come praise of God and name calling of the person we don't like. It just shouldn't. And look, if I'm just convinced, if your favorite whoever, athlete, politician, whoever it is, if they name call, you ought to let them go. We ought to protect ourselves a little bit better, and we should be the examples of living the kind of way that what comes out of our mouth builds up and edifies and makes the culture and the world a better place. And so I got to thinking about how all of my words, and I don't always do a great job, but I got up this morning thinking, okay, today I want to be careful. Today I want to watch my words. Today I want to watch my actions. Today I want to just take stock of today, what it is I say today, and see if indeed out of my mouth comes both. And if I could make it not 50-50, but make it 90-10, or make it something that really helps me to live life better. But then it's not just my life. And you know how I feel about this. It's not just my life, but that then it makes the life better of someone else. When I got back to my office yesterday, I sent a message to the person who sat down with me for those several minutes. I said, thanks for the great conversation today. Because we often just need those unexpected, unannounced conversations to remind us of what it is that God's calling us to. And that was good for me to have yesterday. And so I pray that you and I, if we want the world to be a better place, if we want to, it used to be kind of stuff, well, it used to be, frankly, that you didn't hear in a normal public setting, at least in my knowledge, the kind of language we hear today. It used to be that we never heard politicians say the things that they say, the name calling that they do. If we want to go back to those, as we sometimes pine for, like always, it begins with us, It's a challenge of us to make sure we use the words that we say and our tongues, if you will, as James describes them, not as fire, but as something that builds up and makes the world a better place. So that's our word for today. I hope it's a good word for you. I'm going to be going to lunch soon with the Crimson Bells. The Red Hat Ladies, always enjoy that on the first Wednesday of the month. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.